Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. It's Sunday today, so it's our pricing video today where we look on eBay, check out the CGC 9.8 prices and notable sales from this past week. And yeah, we'll get right into it here. All the prices I mention here are US dollars, and I'll have a list in the description below just as a resource of all the issues we'll talk about. And these are all eBay prices, just doing like a quick completed listings search to get all these prices just from this past week. And before we get into it, just wanted to remind you and invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8 here. Hit that bell, get all the latest notifications and all our new videos if you do that, so that would be so much appreciated. Let's get right to the books though. A lot of really cool key issues here from 80s and 90s CGC 9.8s that sold. A lot of these books that sold I really love. So first book here, Amazing Spider-Man number 362, Second Carnage. This one was a newsstand edition, so a little bit more rare than the direct edition. That one sold for $89. So Second Carnage, really cool cover, Venom Carnage cover, newsstand version for $89. I think that's a pretty good deal actually. Next book here is an Uncanny X-Men 142. So this is a book I have, and yeah, seeing two of them sell just this past week. So Uncanny X-Men 142 with the green cover, Days of Future Past Part 2. A newsstand version sold for $339, and a direct normal version sold for $299. And kind of liking these prices because I paid 275 Canadian dollars for mine. So that's going to put it about, a little over 200 American. So kind of looks like this issue's a little bit heating up. Maybe I picked it up kind of during a bit of a X-Men lull maybe or something. But yeah, two of them sold, one for 300, one for 339. And the 339 was a newsstand version. The one I have is a newsstand version too. So I think I got a pretty good deal on that. Bought it about 6 months ago. An Amazing Spider-Man 301 sold, and in the CGC 9.8, this is a really rare issue, has a really low CGC 9.8 ratio, almost like Amazing Spider-Man 300. They're both really rare, hard to find in a really high grade. One of these sold for $1,249. Amazing Spider-Man 301, CGC 9.8. Yeah, really expensive book. This is one I've sort of kind of toyed with possibly buying, but never kind of pulled the trigger to buy. Really expensive. So next book here is Batman 635. First Jason Todd as Red Hood. And a couple videos ago we had a really good deal on it where I saw one sell for $150, and it was in an auction, and I thought that was looking like a great deal. And one sold last week for $274.95. So we'll call it $275. And one selling for $150 a couple weeks ago. So yeah, still a bit of a range on that issue, I think. And when I saw that one go for $150 a couple weeks ago, I did mention that most of the time I see these go for getting close to $300. And yeah, so this seems a little bit more of a normal price for Batman 635, and it looked like a really good one. Like a new case, really well centered, no scuffs on the case or anything, so that's probably why it was $275. A Star Wars 42 that sold, and it was on an auction, and kind of from a seller that I don't think was very well followed, but I think this is a really good deal. A Star Wars 42 went for $365 in the CGC 9.8, and that's first Boba Fett, first Yoda, essentially, in Star Wars comics. So yeah, a really big key issue for $365. I think that's a really good price, actually. Definitely a fair price for that book. A lot of times you see some of these buy it nows for that book in like the $800 range. So yeah, I think that's a good pickup. Batman 570 sold, and that's the second appearance of Harley Quinn in DC continuity. A kind of mid-90s book. That's one I have actually. Batman 570 went for $129.99. So $130. I think that's a pretty good deal, actually. Yeah, I believe that's probably a little bit less than what I paid for mine. So, and yeah, buying mine kind of over a year ago. So at that point, I wasn't really too much looking into like getting the best prices on comics. So I think I overpaid a little bit for my Batman 570 back in the day. A New Mutants 98. A couple of them sold actually this past week. First appearance of Deadpool, obviously. So all of these are in the new case. All of them were direct editions that sold. 2 of them sold for $699.99, so $700 we'll call it, and another one sold for $749. And the $749 one was looking like really centered, looked really good, no pages coming out of the side. Whereas the other 2 that were $700, like kind of a little bit of centering issues on some of them. I recommend for New Mutants 98, there's so many of them out there. You could be really picky with this issue as far as like centering and the pages sticking out the side and things like that. Sometimes those things annoy me. And I think with the book in the early 90s where there's so many in the CGC 9.8 for the New Mutants 98. You could be really picky with New Mutants 98 and get a really nice centered one with vivid colors and everything. But yeah, 1 went for $749 and 2 went for $700. So that's not too bad. I've kind of seen them creeping under 7, and I was thinking maybe this issue could collapse possibly and maybe even get into the 500s, but it looks like it's still, staying over that $700 range. Batman The Dark Knight Returns #1, one of my favorite Batman books of the 80s. This one signed by Frank Miller, and a lot of times when you see a Batman The Dark Knight Returns #1 signed by Frank Miller, it's like getting close to that $2,000 range in these buy it nows and things like that. But this one sold for $1,279.99. Signed by Frank Miller. I mean, this is pretty much the Batman book of the 80s to get, so, it is really expensive, but I think Batman The Dark Knight Returns is one of the top 10 graphic novels of all time, and it kind of ushered in basically the modern age of comic books, so, a really key Batman book, certainly if you're a Batman fan. An Incredible Hulk 271 sold, first Rocket Raccoon. And this is a book that I've sort of tried to buy periodically throughout the last year, I would say, but just kind of unsuccessfully or never pulled the trigger. But a really nice copy of Incredible Hulk 271 sold for $623.96. And that's a little bit higher than I've seen them sort of go. Usually they're in the $500 range. So getting up over $600, and I think this book just looked really good. New case, looked really good, so, someone probably willing to pay, $50 more just to get a really, really nice copy. That's a lot of what I like to do sometimes, like, if a book is looking perfectly centered and looks amazing from the cover and everything like that, a lot of times I'll, bid a little bit more just to make sure I win it, and even if I overpay a little bit, you're getting a 100% amazing looking book, so... where was I here? A copy of New Mutants 100, which is the first X-Force. One of those sold for $99.99. And that's kind of a cool book. Last issue, New Mutants, if you're, a big X-Force fan, or those early 90s, like Rob Liefeld art. That'd be a good one to have. Saga of the Swamp Thing. And number 28, I believe it is. I didn't put the number on my notes, so I forgot to do that. It's the first John Constantine. This is a book that I've sort of periodically really wanted and been kind of waiting for auctions to pop up because a lot of times it is really expensive. One sold last week for $669 in the CGC 9.8. First John Constantine. This is a really big key, I think, and certainly if you're a horror fan, like this is, I think, one of the key books to have from kind of the 80s and 90s horror genre. An Amazing Spider-Man 298, so got one right here, CGC 9.8. Huge Todd McFarlane fan. This is the first Todd McFarlane Spider-Man title. One of my favorite sort of... I wouldn't say it's like a main key. It's kind of a secondary Amazing Spider-Man key. Because there is a first appearance of Eddie Brock in Cameo too. So you kind of get a first appearance. But I think as a sort of secondary Amazing Spider-Man key, this is probably one of the best ones to get. So one sold last week for $285. $285 US, and I think that's a pretty good price. I've seen them on prior our pricing videos go for, I think it was maybe below $250. One of them was like $245. Was like the lowest I've seen that go. This one was looking really good though, new case, and I would totally recommend this book if you're if that's in your price range around that $250 to $300 and you wanted a Spider-Man book. I would recommend this book. Next book here, Uncanny X-Men number 221, first Mr. Sinister. This is a really cool first appearance, I think, and this last week one sold for $199.99, and that's pretty fair. You kind of see these go from, sometimes it might dip below 200, but generally about 200 to 230, I guess, for this book, kind of depending on how good it looks, I guess. But Yeah, this one, pictures were probably not the best, so I think $199.99 is why that went for that and not maybe for 20 or 30 bucks more. But first Mr. Sinister, I think, for 200 bucks, that's probably one of the really cool first appearances that you could get. Although the cover for me is like not that cool. I wish it was just a really cool like Mr. Sinister cover, to be honest. I feel like that book would be worth 100 or two more if it was a really cool Mr. Sinister cover. But still, a cool first appearance, $199.99, Uncanny X-Men 221. An Immortal Hulk #1, first appearance, first print, the Alex Ross cover, Immortal Hulk #1. One of those went for $120. And yeah, that's pretty cool because, I mean, literally a month or two ago, I bought one of these for $75. So, yeah, it looks like this might be going up, or maybe this could just be a one-off of someone kind of paying up because they want it now. Next issue is Uncanny X-Men 141. So 142 had sold. We just went over a few of those. So 141, Days of Future Past #1. One of those sold for $399.99. And yeah, I think that is a fair price. I've seen them go for lower. Yeah, I think maybe the lowest I've seen that on an auction would be like $340. So $399.99. This copy actually looked really good. Very centered from the front, no pages sticking out the side. So yeah, again, this would be one that I would possibly pay up for too, just because it was looking really good. Uncanny X-Men #130, the first Dazzler. One of these sold as well. And yeah, from that era of Uncanny X-Men, obviously you got the Days of Future Past we just talked about, but 130 and 129 are really big keys, with first Kitty Pryde and 129. Uncanny X-Men 130, first Dazzler. One of those sold last week for $809.99. So yeah, and I've seen these, and buy it nows get up there certainly. And yeah, first Dazzler, and yeah, getting over 800 though. That's quite expensive. These are getting. I believe this might be no. I think this is still an 80s book, but it's getting close to the 70s, so it's quite an old book, and that's most of the reason why for that 809. Personally, probably would have a first Deadpool over that. A New Mutants 98, or even a first John Constantine, to be honest. But 809 for first Dazzler, not too bad. If you love the Dazzler, that's not a bad buy. Uncanny X-Men 282, first Bishop, and the cool Bishop cover, it's a cameo of Bishop on the last page, but this is somewhat known as the first Bishop, I guess. So one of these went for $130. Uncanny X-Men 282 for $130. Might be able to get even a better price on that if you wait, but I believe this was a buy it now. It wasn't an auction, so probably get that a little closer to 100 if you were really patient. Marvel's Secret Wars #8, really popular book, The Origin of the Alien Costume. One of those sold last week for $232.49. And this one was looking good too in a new case, well, nicely centered. A lot of times you can see this issue a little bit uncentered, because it's got like sort of an orange-pink cover, and then on the back cover is white. So every now and then you get like the strip white on the side that's like off-centered, but this book actually looked quite nice. For $232.49, that's certainly one that I kind of have on my want list too. Kind of if one of my favorite Canadian sellers and I didn't have to ship it over the border was selling it, I'd maybe go after it actually. Fits really well in with like all my other Venom and SpiderMan and Symbiote books from that era. And last issue here is X-Men #4, which is the first Omega Red. This is a really cool like first appearance if you're on a budget, to be honest. Really cool cover as well. This one specifically looked really good, and it was a newsstand version. So I'm kind of, I didn't see this before I did the research on this video, but this is kind of a book on my secondary want list that I want as well. And I probably would have bought this if I would have seen it, because a really good-looking newsstand version went for $119. And yeah, and in general, you could probably get that book for about $100 or maybe even a little bit less if you're really patient. But in a newsstand, and it looked really good in a new case. Again, like this is a good example of where a lot of times it's probably just better to pay the extra $20 and get a really good-looking book that when you're going to get it's perfectly centered and you're going to feel real great about it. And to me, that's worth like the extra $20 or whatever percentage it might be of the price. Okay, that's the last book. Yeah, the X-Men #4, first Omega Red for $119, the newsstand version. Last book. I will have a list in the description below if you want to follow along and get all the prices in the list, that'll be a little bit easier. But that'll do it for today's video. And this is my favorite exercise, just to basically become a better comic book collector and investor. I always say one of the best things you could do to become a better comic book investor is to buy the books that you love at the right price. And if you follow these prices week to week, you're going to know the right prices for all the books that you want. So when you see a buy it now that's like asking $200-300 more, you're going to know that that's not the right price, and you're going to turn those down, and you're going to wait for an auction. You're going to be patient. You're going to find the right price. And that's the best thing you can do when you're collecting and investing in these CGC 9.8 books and all these key issues and all that. So that'll be it for today's video, though. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.